Oh, hello, and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box, where today I want to talk about one of the very best supergroups of the 80s, and this was The Firm. Now, The Firm released only two albums, but both of them, they tick my box for what makes a great album, and that's no filler. Every song really stands on its own as something that's listenable and great, and in this case, very fun, because they were a fun band, because they all knew that they were very talented and they weren't afraid to show it. The songwriting was great, the playing was great, the production was great. Everything really just came together oh so well. And you can kind of see why, because the leaders of the band, if you will, and the main songwriters were music industry veterans at this point, both of whom were on Swan Song Records. And this was, of course, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, of course, and Paul Rodgers, who, of course, was in Free and Bad Company. And when you put them together in this band, you really get something good, which wasn't necessarily a given, because there are many instances where you take great musicians, put them all together, stir them up in a pot, and what comes out isn't exactly great. Well, this is one instance of a supergroup that just worked, and the other members of the band were super too. On drums, there was Chris Slade, who played just before this with Manfred Mann's Earth Band, really great band. He's done stuff with everyone. He's played for AC/DC, Tom Jones, David Gilmour, the list goes on. Wonderful, solid drummer. He can do sessions, he can do band work, anything. And I think, though, that sort of the secret sauce that really made everything just come together so well was the bass player, Tony Franklin. Now, Tony Franklin is unique. I mean, he was very young when he joined the firm, but what really made him unique is his fretless sound. Now, fretless bass had something of a renaissance, if you will, fretless electric bass guitar in the late 70s and the 80s, because it had a really poignant and very clean sound, but very sort of noticeable. I mean, the bass was a big instrument in the 80s. There was the slap bass, there was fretless. Pino Palladino played a lot of fretless. Jaco Pastorius in the 70s and 80s played a lot of fretless. But in the rock context, Tony Franklin has really done some amazing things. I mean, he has played fretted, but his trademark, his sonic signature is the fretless sound, and it is all over these two albums. The first was just self-titled The Firm from 1984, and then that was followed up with Mean Business, both of which you should listen to, both of which are out there online. And there's even some live footage of the band that you can find on YouTube that I highly recommend because they were really good live. Now, Franklin's bass work is virtuosic, and he does a lot of bass tutorials. He's a true sort of bona fide musician who's played with lots of people. But everything that he did on this album really gave it a fresh sound, and it doesn't sound dated at all. It sounds really just as fresh today as before, and even people who might not know the mechanics of the bass or that much about what goes into making music, they go, something about this album sounds different. There's Paul Rodgers and his wonderfully consistent vocals. There's that unmistakable Jimmy Page guitar, the wonderful and reliable drumming of Chris Slade, but then there's this secret sauce, this X factor, and that really is Tony Franklin's bass playing. You can't miss it, even if you're not looking out for it. Between the two albums, I say they're both equally good. Really, really good stuff on both. Why the band didn't do bigger, do more sales? I mean, they were popular and they became a cult classic, and people who like rock music tend to really like them. The record labels, frankly, should have got behind it more and should have pushed it more. Asia, another super group of people who were rock veterans by this time, did comparatively better in record sales, where I think both of these bands were among the best rock super groups of the era. So definitely check out both albums by The Firm. I guarantee that if you like that sort of music, you will not be disappointed. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care.